Okay, faith builds, okay, with the wisdom of God. Wisdom has to do with direction. Okay, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, right? Knowledge has to do with those facts that pertain to the wisdom and the knowledge of God, or facts that pertain to the purpose and the plan of God. Okay, that remain consistent with His character, purpose, and plan. Okay, that has to do with truth, doesn't it? Right? And wisdom or understanding has to do with the ability to weigh those facts. Okay, and wisdom speaks of direction. Okay, now the wisdom of God always directs the knowledge of God, okay, into covenant with understanding that we can make application with this knowledge. That these facts are not just a pile of wood in the yard, okay, but we know how to build with these things. Okay, remember we talked about that a couple weeks ago, I think. Right? You could have all the all of the materials that you need to build a garage, okay, but that doesn't mean it's a garage, does it? Okay, you can't park a car in it. So instead, you have to also couple those materials with some skills and some understanding, right? Which means there needs to be some instruction, right? You don't want to hire a bunch of guys that have never built a garage before. You want to hire guys that have built garages before. Okay, they have understanding. They've also been instructed in these things. Okay, not only have they been instructed in these things, right? They've also had some experience, so they've gained understanding also. Okay, it's the same thing with the priesthood. Now, verse 3 goes on, who's adorning? Uh, Let it not be the outward adorning. Now, the adorning has to do with speaking. Uh, it speaks of adding beauty to, okay? That's what adorning has to do with. It's adding beauty to. So as the Lord has said, I give beauty for ashes. Therefore, our adorning is from that which the Lord works with which the Lord works within our souls, okay, by His Spirit. And this is the work of regeneration. And it's important for our hope to be rooted within this work, okay, that our focus be set within this work. The wisdom of God directs our focus to the work of Christ in the soul, okay, that we remain focused on Christ working within our hearts, and that therefore, right, because this is our focus, therefore we labor with the knowledge that pertains to this, okay. Remember, as concerning pertaining to godliness, okay, you read about that in the scriptures. Pertaining to godliness has to do with that being fruitful. Okay, well, the knowledge of Christ pertains to godliness. And if you make application with it, with the tools of the Spirit, within the boundaries or the terms and the conditions of the second covenant, okay, it pertains to godliness. Now, if you take these same scriptures, all right, and redirect them in order to, puff up the imagination or to pursue an aspiration or to confirm your principle, then the Spirit of God will not work with those things, okay? And instead, you will cause a great many offenses, okay? And it'll be a tearing down process. There's no adorning in that. Okay, so the beauty of the soul, okay, from the eyes of God, okay, the soul is beautified by the fruit of the Spirit. Okay, this is the fruit of faith. Okay? So when we talk about faith, uh, most often this has to do with that fruit bearing within the soul. Okay, that faith being that fruit. So, and this is what adorns the soul. This is what beautifies the soul. This is what brings forth the smell of Christ from the soul. The soul was once as a pile of waste or refuge, right? Like not refuge, but refuse. Trash, right? That it was like and had a stench coming from it. Okay, the stench of death. This is the condition of the soul when we come into covenant with God. Okay, it'd be also just like a house which has been ravished by fire. Okay, or here in the area I live in, we had a major flood a while back, and the condition of the house after the flood was just it was really amazing how much damage that did because the water sat in the house for so long. Okay, and the smells that come from this are just horrendous, right? Well, that's the way the soul is. Okay, when we come into covenant with God, all of that has to be torn out, right? Everything has to be inspected. Everything has to be sanitized and cleansed. This is what takes place with the regeneration of the soul. Okay, so this adorning has to do with that work of Christ within the soul. Okay, Christ is adding beauty to the soul, okay, which was not there. It had been lost because of the scarring of sin. Okay, the devastation, the spoilage. Okay, right? Because when death enters in, okay, it spoils just like fruit, right? Okay, it begins to spoil. Okay, and then which produces a very unpleasant result, doesn't it? Um, So just as a reminder here, right? Peter is addressing faith and the church. He has not lost focus on Christ. It's important for us not to lose focus on Christ. Okay, he is focused on the mystery of his work within our souls. Okay? This is the focus of Peter, okay, an apostle of Christ who is sharing truth, okay, with wisdom. Okay? He's directing our faith with the knowledge of Christ and setting our focus in that work. Okay, setting our focus in the tools, in the priesthood. All right, he hasn't changed that yet. He's using these comparisons for example. So verse 4 he goes on, but let it be in the hidden man of the heart. Now the hidden man has to do with that adorning work of regeneration. Okay, this is what he's talking about, the hidden man of the heart. The work of Christ is invisible. Okay, Apostle Hermas had a vision as concerning the trees, right? There was trees, and this is recorded in the lost books of the Bible, which you can get online. I think it's got a larger title. It's the Lost Books of the Bible. I don't remember, but if you search that Lost Books of the Bible, I think you'll find it like on Amazon, for instance, or Barnes and Noble, or whatever. But let me go on. Okay, it had to do with the trees. Okay, in the wintertime, you look out at the trees. Okay, especially here in the Midwest in the United States, right? Okay, the trees, not the evergreens, but the regular trees look the same whether they're dead or alive. And we had an example of that when we purchased our house here. Okay, that in the wintertime when we looked at the house, all the trees, they had no leaves. All the trees looked the same. Okay, but in the springtime we had one tree, okay, that only had about 25% of its leaves grow out. Okay, the rest of the branches were all without leaves. And in the wintertime, I wasn't able to tell that. Okay, so I didn't know that there was a dead tree behind the house. Okay, it wasn't until the spring, okay, that which was true. I mean, it was already, there were living trees and there were dead trees, but you couldn't tell them apart. There was no point of discernment, right? Okay, until it was revealed. It was revealed in the spring. Okay, well, Apostle Hermas had this vision concerning this. Okay, it's the same thing with the work of Christ in the souls. Okay, the righteous and the unrighteous don't look any different now because this is the winter. Okay, uh, as excuse me, as King David said, the valley of death, right? That's this world. This is the time that we live in right now. This is the valley of death. Okay, where we're surrounded by darkness. And in fact, right now we're surrounded by a twofold time of darkness. Okay, it's a very dark time because the time of darkness has passed since Christ came. Okay, and there's many versions of the gospel which have all been decoupled from Christ. Okay, decoupled from the Godhead, so that they misdirect faith. Okay, that's the work of the Antichrist spirit. Okay, so it's a great time of darkness, but God is now restoring the church back to Christ. Okay, beginning with he began again with apostles. Okay, in order to instruct the church. Okay, in the whole knowledge of Christ. Okay, in the foundation of truth, to restore the priesthood. Okay, restoring our hope in the work of Christ within the soul. Okay, same thing Apostle Peter's talking about here. And yet, most people, when they preach from these scriptures, okay, are instead preaching concerning family matters. Right? They're trying to address issues of the family, issues of the household. Okay, not issues of faith, not the work of regeneration within the soul. But this is what Apostle Peter's talking about. Okay, you see, so how they turn this knowledge into another direction, don't they? Okay, they're taking it and they're misusing it. Now, God has authorized that misuse of his knowledge, but he hasn't sanctified it. Okay, there's a difference between being authorized and sanctified. Okay, that which is sanctified is profitable for faith and it works unto godliness. Okay, it brings forth fruit in the soul. But that which God has authorized is for the testing of the heart. Okay, God allows that misdirection of knowledge so we can exercise our faith. Okay, are we going to follow that knowledge or cling to the knowledge which we've received from Him? Okay, which remains centered and focused upon Christ. Are we going to allow that knowledge to distract our faith and turn our faith into another direction, or are we going to remain? Are we going to continue to follow after wisdom? Okay, which speaks of building by faith within the soul. Okay, that we're building up ourselves through Christ. Okay, and so also we're building up one another through our fellowship with Christ. That we have in it, our fellowship has to do with that exchange of this knowledge. Okay, that we are partaking of the living substance of God through Christ, right? And we are strengthening one another with the same substance. And that has to do with that hidden man. Okay, it's within the soul. This is not evident, okay, to those around us. Okay, but it is evident to the righteous. Okay, that because we being partakers of one another's charity, okay, are able to assess that understanding, okay, because that chaste conversation, right, that our exchange of the knowledge of Christ remains wholesome and pure, okay, nothing being removed from it, nothing being added to it, okay, that has to do with that chaste conversation. That activity of our faith, okay, remains within the boundaries of the covenant, okay, within the framework of truth, okay, and praise God for making these things known to us, that we can clearly measure our faith, okay, so that we can be confident, okay, and also that the Lord continues to bear witness to Christ within our soul, this work taking place within us through dreams and visions, okay, and the many different manifestations of Christ, which are very manifold graces of God, right, that He manifests Christ to us as He promised, to continue to strengthen our faith in Him, that our hope does not grow dim, but remains bright and strong. Now, also, when he talks here about in verse 4, the meek and quiet spirit, which has to do with forbearing and faith, all right, which is the 3 C's. 3 C's have to do with conformity, consistency, and communication. Okay, conformity, consistency, and communication. You might want to make note of that. Now, the order of those things shows progression of growth, okay, within the covenant. That the first thing that we see with those that are coming into the knowledge of Christ is conformity, right? They are allowing the truth, the gospel and truth, okay, to uproot, okay, the false indoctrinations within the soul. They're allowing Christ to do that work within the soul. Okay, they are embracing the knowledge that they're receiving, and they're forsaking the knowledge that they had previously received. Okay, so that they are coming into agreement with God. Okay, that has to do with conformity. Right? That we're confirming that yeah, that's not the way I understood it, but I see now that this is how you want me to know you, Lord. Okay, that we're conforming to that knowledge, right? And we allow the uprooting of those other things. Okay, consistency is what takes place as you're studying the doctrine. Okay, laboring in daily with the tools, beginning with tongues, right? Praying daily in the Spirit. Okay, continuing to study the doctrine, continuing to read the scriptures, reflect upon this knowledge, with continuing to remain focused upon Christ, and that and we bring forth growth through that, right? Okay, that's what consistency is. Okay, it's daily overcoming the cycles of our growth with the use of these tools. Okay, the use of this knowledge, the use of these tools. Right, and that knowledge also pertains to our experience. Right, the experience that we gain as we come into contact with Christ, we experience Christ, don't we? Okay, that edification that we experience as we pray in tongues, okay, is Christ, the presence of Christ being made manifest to us. Okay, because Christ is in these tools. So when we talk about knowledge, we're not just talking about the doctrine, we're also talking about your experience. Okay, as you make application with the doctrine, you experience Christ. Right? And you want to make note of that, okay, because you're going to draw upon that experience, that knowledge, right, as you face cycles of growth.